The Frankenmuth Cheese House mouse, protruding from a huge slice of cheese on Frankenmuth's Main Street, has greeted millions of visitors for decades. But the history of this store, and just how it came to be on this site, requires us to go way, way back in time. This presentation is not just about the modern-day cheese house. It is also a tribute to the Hubinger family members who were the undisputed business leaders of Frankenmuth in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. The Hubingers were truly Frankenmuth's first entrepreneurs, without whom Frankenmuth may never have survived the desolate wilderness conditions of the 1800s. The Hubinger story does not begin in Frankenmuth or even in the Franconian region of Germany from which they emigrated in 1846. Rather, it begins more than 200 years earlier in Buchenort, Austria, not far from Salzburg in the year 1610, with the birth of David Hubinger. The Hubingers were millers and operated successful mills in Austria. But as devout Lutherans, they experienced severe persecution during the Counter-Reformation period. In the middle 17th century, Lutherans in Austria were given two options: either convert to Catholicism or pack up and leave Austria. In keeping with their strong Lutheran faith, the Hubinger family relocated to the Auerach River area near Nuremberg, Germany, and continued as millers in this region known as Franconia for another 200 years. Two young Hubinger brothers, Johann Matthias and Johann Georg, both born near the small village of Desmansdorf, not far from Ansbach, Bavaria, Germany, in 1820 and 1823 respectively, were destined to bring the Hubinger name to Frankenmuth in 1846. Both their parents had died, and the future in Germany looked quite bleak for the 23 and 26-year-old brothers. They said goodbye forever to their 6 brothers and sisters and joined the second group of Lutheran emigrants bound for America and the Frankenmuth wilderness, arriving in the summer of 1846. Coincidentally, on that same ship which left in 1846 were Johann Stephan Zander, his wife Margareta, and their 3-year-old son Johann Friedrich, who were bringing the Zender name to Frankenmuth for the first time as well. It did not take the Hubingers long to get into the entrepreneurial spirit in Frankenmuth. In 1847, the Hubinger brothers built a wooden dam on the Cass River, which gave them a water wheel to power their first sawmill and flour mill. A few years later, the original sawmill was replaced with a steam-driven mill just a bit upstream, which continued to supply the lumber to build the early houses in the Frankenmuth area. Within a few years of its founding, Frankenmuth was replacing crude log cabins and huts with more sturdy farmhouses and barns built primarily with high-quality Hubinger lumber. Basic necessities for life at that time consisted of housing and food. That meant lumbering, flour mills, and slaughterhouses were needed. Hubingers supplied all three for the fledgling Frankenmuth settlement. They opened the first general store in 1851 on the corner of Main and Tuscola Streets. It was destroyed by fire after being hit by lightning in 1903, but was rebuilt with brick and was operated through the 1960s by Hattie Hubinger. Hubingers opened the first cheese factory in 1884. At one time, there were 8 cheese factories operating in Frankenmuth. At the turn of the century, 3 families were operating slaughterhouses in Frankenmuth: Hubingers, Getzingers, and Zenders. One of the slaughterhouses was first established as a tannery in 1869 and operated by George Adam Hubinger, who died at the early age of 44 years in 1896. He left his widow, Gertrude Schluckebier, with 3 young children. She then married Fred Getzinger, a dealer in wholesale meats and a breeder of trotting horses. Getzinger dismantled the tannery and replaced it with a slaughterhouse, which was located close to the Cass River behind their residence on Main Street. The site of their residence is now the Cheese House parking lot. After Getzinger's death in 1932, his stepson, Otto Hubinger, continued in the wholesale meat business. In 1934, he expanded into retail meats and sausages under the name of Central Meat Market. A renovated barn behind their residence served as the retail store. In 1945, Otto sold the business to his son, Fred Hubinger. In 1951, Fred built the first modern self-serve supermarket in Frankenmuth with the name of Hubinger's Supermarket. In 1967, William Tiny Zender of the Bavarian Inn restaurant and Fred Hubinger began discussing the possibility of Tiny purchasing the Hubinger Supermarket. Tiny's idea was to remodel it in a Bavarian motif and bring in a Swiss Colony cheese store franchise, which was extremely popular at that time. The lack of public parking was a real issue in the negotiations, and as a result, Tiny said he would buy the house of Fred and Florence Hubinger to the north of the supermarket, but they would have to tear it down or move it to make room for parking. Hubingers decided to move it west of town on Genesee Street, where it remains today, and the deal was sealed. It is unlikely that Johann Stephan Zender and John G. Hubinger, who shared passage to America together in 1846, could have dreamt that their great-grandsons would be transacting such a sale 122 years later in a prospering Frankenmuth, which they found to be a wooded wilderness on their arrival. Tiny Zender entered into a franchise agreement with the Swiss Colony Cheese Company in January of 1968 and opened for business in May. The Cheese House was one of the first businesses in Frankenmuth to feature an authentic Bavarian motif facade. Through the subsequent decades, Tiny Zender encouraged all Main Street businesses to convert to the Bavarian motif when remodeling or expanding. The city of Frankenmuth established Main Street as a historical district, which also assisted in the efforts to transform the city into what is now considered Michigan's Little Bavaria. Edmar and Millie Bender were the first store managers under the Swiss Colony franchise. It was Edmar's idea to place the now famous Cheese House mouse next to the store in 1970. For decades, this whimsical mouse has been greeting visitors to Frankenmuth. In July of 1973, Ernie and Vera Heine began managing the store and continued to do so for 7 years. In 1980, Tiny's daughter, Judy Zender, purchased the business from her father and assumed management of the Cheese House. The Cheese House mouse became a favorite of Judy's children. Michael and Martha, at a very early age, are seen posing here with staff member Laura Ulrich. Along with the glockenspiel and wooden-covered bridge, the Cheese House mouse has been one of the most photographed sights in Frankenmuth for generations. The mouse has found its way into the family photo albums of tens of thousands of visitors to Frankenmuth. It's hard to imagine that George Adam Hubinger in the late 1800s could have foreseen this type of activity taking place in front of his Cass River Tannery and Slaughterhouse, or in front of his son Otto's meat market in the 1930s, or next to his grandson Freddie's supermarket in the 1950s. But so it is today. And now, Tammy Rada, general manager of the Frankenmuth Cheese House, who has worked with Judy Zender since 1983, will tell us about her unique Main Street store.
Hello, I'm Tammy, and welcome to the Frankenmuth Cheese House. In 1990, we purchased our first cheese-making machine. It was a used machine from a cheese producer in St. John's, Michigan. We began to make our chocolate-flavored cheeses and formulate our very own line of cheese spreads. Various spreads are produced several times each week. Even though every spread is produced one small batch at a time, we have produced well over 73 tons of cheese spreads since we first introduced these products. Our cheese-making operation can be easily viewed by store visitors through a glass-paneled wall in the rear of our store. In 2005, a new cheese-making machine and an automated packaging machine were introduced to our production line. The packaging machine deposits the cheese spreads into our retail containers in a speedy manner while ensuring a high degree of portion accuracy. Our privately produced line of cheese spreads now includes the flavors of garlic, horseradish, bacon, and jalapeno. We also produce the very popular Father Bolger's, which is a 3-cheese combination spread of cream cheese, cheddar cheese, and blue cheese. A tremendous amount of cheese spread sampling takes place in our store. Guests truly enjoy being able to taste before making their selections from the many varieties offered. Since the beginning, we have never strayed from the original, unique chocolate cheese recipe, which was developed and perfected by Michigan State University. Our chocolate cheese has the texture and consistency of fudge and tastes similar to a Tootsie Roll. Chocolate cheese is made in our standard cheese machine with only the freshest ingredients. After mixing is complete, it is scooped into forms and allowed to cool for 24 hours. Each batch makes 2 20-pound pans. Besides the original chocolate-flavored cheese, we also produce chocolate peanut butter, chocolate mint, and strawberry cheese. Nearly 2 tons of these fun-flavored cheeses are produced and sold each year. Toward the rear of the store, you will find a full-service coffee bar specializing in espresso drinks. Coffee beans are ground freshly on the spot for every single coffee order. Lattes, cappuccinos, plus an expanded specialty coffee menu includes the very popular hazelnut truffle. Soft drinks, hot chocolate, and smoothies are also available. We carefully pack and ship our products to anywhere in the U.S. at any time of the year. Our abundant cheese domes welcome you as you enter the cheese house. We have 2-year through 11-year-old cheddar in 40-pound blocks that are shipped directly to us from Wisconsin, along with our Pinconning and Frankenmuth cheese. Store visitors are able to sample these cheeses to find their favorites. Our store consistently stocks over 120 different flavors of cheese. Some of our truly unique offerings include apple cinnamon cheddar and chicken soup cheese. Some of our most popular items are fresh cheddar cheese curds. also known as squeaky cheese, available in yellow, white, dill, and Cajun flavors, and our cheese bites with a variety of flavors in one tub. We create customized cheese and meat trays for as few as 5 or over 100 people. Meat selections include assortment of sausages, salami, and summer sausages in a variety of flavors to complement our huge array of tasty crackers. Gift baskets can be themed for any occasion, including birthdays, anniversaries, retirements, promotions, and of course holidays. You can personally choose the individual items for your basket, or those in a rush may prefer our pre-arranged assortments, which are intended for the grab-and-go shopper. We have a large selection of domestic and imported beers ranging from the world-famous Hofbrau to a Belgian raspberry beer. Besides a wide variety of wines from around the U.S. and around the world, we also carry unique and fun-themed wine holders and many wine-related accessories. Gourmet dips, sauces, mustards, homemade Bavarian jams, and Papa Tiny's caramel corn have a loyal following among many visitors, who return year after year to find their favorite Frankenmuth specialties. Children and adults alike enjoy our impressive assortment of candy ranging from fresh fudge to nostalgic selections. Our twisted tart machine fascinates the young and the older onlookers. Choose your favorite flavor and watch as the machine creates your tarts right before your eyes. Kitchen gifts and gadgets may be found among all the goodies, including novelty trivets, fun games, and personalized items. Completing our selection of merchandise is souvenirs and t-shirts. Although many changes have taken place within our store since 1968, the Frankenmuth Cheese House ownership and staff maintain the same commitment to fresh, quality products and superb customer service.